All right, the first thing we want to talk about when we are discussing secondary insurance are the primary and secondary tabs in MagPractice. For those of you who attended yesterday's class, this information will sound a little bit familiar. Um, Remember that primary and secondary in MagPractice refers to the financial guarantor or the primarily financially responsible party on the account. So typically, we're deciding primary, secondary. Of course, they're the insurance holders, but they are also the ones who are financially responsible. Typically, the person in the primary tab is a head of household or one of the head of households, and they're the ones that the statements are usually going to be addressed to. The other adult on the account, the other insurance holder, is going to be here in the secondary tab. But once again, these do not necessarily correlate with primary and secondary insurance. And I'll show you what I mean. I have a Test family pulled up here for an example. We have Bob and Sally Test. In this example, they are married and their daughter is Susie. So Bob is on the primary tab. His name is going to be on the statements that we send out to the family, and he is covered under Aetna and Blue Cross. In our secondary tab, we have Sally Test, his wife, and she is covered under Cigna and United Healthcare. Of course, with a real patient, we would have the subscriber IDs, the group number, the plans, the start dates, and of course the demographic information entered in here. Now, when we go to the patient tab, in the insurance sub-tab here, this is where we're going to make sure that these insurance companies are in the proper order. As you can see at the top of this table, I have a little note here that says insurance primary on top. So just by looking at this, I can see currently that Bob is selected here in the sidebar. I have Bob Test selected in my patient selector right here, and his name is also across the top of the screen. So he is the particular patient that we have pulled up right now. So in his patient tab under insurance, here are all the available insurances on this family account. And I brought the subscriber column over so we could kind of see it better right next to the name of the insurance carrier. So we can see that Bob is a subscriber for Aetna and Blue Cross. And because they are in this order, this means that Aetna is Bob's primary insurance and Blue Cross Blue Shield is his secondary. He is not covered under his wife's Cigna or United Healthcare, and I can tell that because these two are disabled. The boxes over here are unchecked. Now, if I come over here and I click on Sally Test, you can see I've set hers up a little differently. Look at the subscribers again. Her primary insurance is Cigna, her secondary is United Healthcare, and she is not covered under her husband's insurances. To rearrange these, you can simply click and hold and drag them around to put them in the proper order as you're doing this on your own computers. And of course, you can click in here to select and deselect the insurance companies as needed. And then finally, we get to the child's account. So in Susie's account, you can see her primary coverage, because it is enabled and it is right here on the top, is United Healthcare through her mother. Her secondary coverage is her father's Blue Cross Blue Shield. She is not covered under the other two. I can see they're unchecked. So this is an example of how we could set up a family account and tell MagPractice, when I'm creating a claim for this patient, this is the primary insurance company who I'm sending the claim to. And when I'm creating my secondary claim, this is going to be the insurance company that we are sending that secondary claim out to, whoever is second on this list in the patient tab. So do keep this in mind as you are setting up your insurance companies. Please pay attention to this and be careful that these are in the right order per each individual patient. Another thing that we have to be careful of and take a look at is the relationship to primary and secondary here. You'll notice that for Susie, my relationship is set to child. This is because relationship refers to the patient's relationship to the primary person. So Susie is the child of Bob and the child of Sally. If we go back to Sally's account here, you can see that her relationship to Bob is spouse, and then for the secondary, it's herself, and Bob's is exactly the reverse. So let's go ahead and go into the ledger and see how this comes into play here. I'm going to go ahead and just choose a random code for us. And you'll notice when my insurance claim creation window pops up here in the ledger, either by default after entering a charge, or I can even hit cancel on this. And if I'm going to go up to the print menu and create an insurance claim on my own, you'll notice the way this is set up by default is Aetna is right here as the insurance carrier is submitting the claim to, and the other insurance, that other coverage is Blue Cross Blue Shield. You'll see I have no other options. The reason for this is because back in that patient tab for Bob, I have set these insurance companies in the proper order. I've deactivated his wife's Cigna and United, and I have Aetna as primary, Blue Cross Blue Shield as secondary. So if you have this insurance subtab set up properly, then you don't have to worry when you're in the ledger and you're creating those claims that they're going to be sent to the right place. So I'm going to go ahead and create this insurance claim. Once again, it's going to Aetna primarily, and then just so we know, the patient also has coverage under Blue Cross Blue Shield, but this insurance carrier is the one who is going to be receiving this claim. Of course, I can change the template here on the fly and accept assignment on the fly as needed. You can always change the insurance carrier on the fly if you need to, but this will default based on the way you have it set up in the patient tab. I'll go ahead and click OK here. And we're going to go ahead and mark this as closed right now. And you'll notice when I highlight that charge again and go to create another claim, my secondary box is checked right here because this is the second insurance I'm sending to. And now you'll see by default that Blue Cross Blue Shield is in the insurance carrier slot, and the other insurance, the other coverage is Aetna. So we are currently going to be sending the secondary claim to Blue Cross Blue Shield. So this is why it's important to set those up in the patient tab. One other thing I want to discuss about secondary insurance actually involves this primary claim. So when you get the payment back from this insurance company, let's go ahead and enter in that payment now. We'll, of course, put in the check number and the amount that the insurance company is paying. We'll put in our allowed amount, our payment, and any write-off. Now, when the patient does have secondary coverage, it becomes very important to check this box right here that says Use EOB columns. You'll notice when I check this that my fee and my payment become red, and you'll see a little alert here at the top of the window. A reason code must accompany the disallowed amount. Either add a reason code or remove the disallowed amount. So because they're not paying the full thing, we will see as we scroll all the way over to the right side of this window, we have a disallowed amount of $50. And right here is a space for the reason code. Now this should be written right on your EOB that you receive from the insurance company. So I'm just going to go ahead and put one of those codes in here. And you'll notice once I add that reason code, that alert goes away, my amounts are no longer in red, and I can hit save. The reason this is so important is that when we are going to then create our secondary claim for Blue Cross Blue Shield is going to require this information. They want to know how much Aetna has paid and why Aetna has not paid the amount in full. Oftentimes, skipping this step and not using these EOB columns in this primary payment will cause rejections on a secondary claim, especially a secondary E-claim. So do be sure that you are using these EOB columns when your patient has dual coverage. When you're creating that electronic claim, MacPractice will pull this information from the primary payment onto that E-claim file. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save here. And then by default, my create insurance claim window is popping up again, once again, this time to Blue Cross Blue Shield as the secondary insurance. So I can go ahead and create that secondary E-claim now. One other thing that is a common question and misunderstanding is what is the difference between a secondary claim and a crossover claim? That is a very good question. The claim that we currently have created here on our window is a secondary claim. The difference is a secondary claim is a claim that you are submitting on the patient's behalf to their secondary insurance company. A crossover claim is a claim that the primary insurance is submitting to the secondary insurance. So if you have an insurance company, if Aetna were going to forward on the secondary claim to Blue Cross Blue Shield and we don't have to do it, that is called a crossover claim. So in this case, this secondary claim, we have created that here in the ledger by clicking Create Insurance Claim, or when that window popped up by default. And so then when the payment comes in, we'll just post this payment as you regularly do in the ERA manager if you have ERAs. So we'll just say that they're paying the rest here. So that is a secondary claim, a claim that you send out. Now, if that primary insurance company is going to be forwarding on that claim to the secondary insurance, we're going to want to generate a crossover claim. Let's go to Sally's account to do this example. I'm going to go ahead and enter my new charge. Cancel out of that patient payment window. And now I'm going to highlight that charge, go up to print, and create an insurance claim. We're creating this for Cigna, and United Healthcare is Sally's secondary insurance. So let's say in this case that I know that Cigna is going to send the secondary claim to United Healthcare for me. What we will do in that case is come down here to the bottom of the window and check the box that says also print crossover claim to United Healthcare. You can see down below that it explains it a little bit further. Check this box to create a dummy claim. What this means is we're not actually creating an electronic claim or even a paper claim to print out. We are simply creating that placeholder in the ledger. So when the payment comes in from United Healthcare, we have a claim to post the payment to. I'll show you what I mean. We'll go ahead and click OK. And you'll see now we have the two claims here. We have the e-claim that we are going to be sending to Cigna. And we have this crossover line here so that when we hear back from United Healthcare from the claim that Cigna sent out to them, we'll be able to highlight this United Healthcare claim and post our payment here. Even if United Healthcare payment were to come in before Cigna, because they're both here on the ledger as line items, I can highlight whichever claims payment comes in and add that insurance payment into the ledger. If you are ever worried that you might not be getting all of your secondary claims sent out, the Claim Manager is a good place to go. Go into the Manager's ability, come into the Claim Manager, and here you can manage your new or outstanding claims. If we simply want to focus on secondary claims in this case, you'll notice there's a checkbox for primary and secondary. I'll simply uncheck the primary claims, set the rest of my filters. Maybe there's a certain insurance company I'm looking for, a certain doctor or office, or date range. Once I have all that information in there, I can go ahead and hit apply. And these are all of my secondary claims that need to be created. So these are patients who have a charge and they have a secondary insurance, but that claim has not yet been created in the ledger. MacPractice is finding all those patients for me and showing them here. And this will allow me to create claims in bulk by hitting the Create Claims button down at the bottom of the screen. So you can focus on your secondary claims for this as well. I mentioned this because this class is covering secondary claims, but you can do this for primary as well. You can also filter just paper claims or e-claims, and you can even, like this claim, for instance, is going out as an e-claim. We can even change the form or template here and drop it to paper on the fly. So this is a nice way to manage all those claims in bulk, or do some catch up, or have here as a safety net to make sure we're getting all those claims submitted. Outstanding Claims Manager works in a similar way. We can go ahead and, if we're focusing on secondary claims, I'm going to uncheck this box, hit apply, and here are all of our secondary claims that have been created and probably have been sent, but they're outstanding. They don't currently have a payment on them, and or they are not closed. So this allows you to manage your outstanding claims and to see if they've, if we haven't heard back from United Healthcare, for instance, in a long time, it might be a good idea to follow up with them. Do keep in mind, I am not entering in a start date or end date here because I'm on a test database, and so I don't have very many patients or claims out there. For all of you with your live databases, you probably will want to enter in a date range. Otherwise, you might be waiting for this report to generate for a long time, depending on how many claims are out there.